Almost live, and we're live. Let me
We're
hit it
live.
with some music first. Welcome to the BS Show with your host, Steph Hammerlink, and
Austin Frankie.
yep. Okay, I'm really curious what you have for me today. I'm brain dead, so I'm happy you're taking the lead on this one.
Yep. Yep. I'm a little brain dead too, but it's going to work just fine.
Tell us what you have in store, Austin.
Yes. Let me first ask you a question here, Steph. Have you been involved in press releases for rebrands in your career?
Ah, let me think about that. It's a good one. I've been involved in many rebrands, but I always pushed back on press releases, so I don't think I've actually been involved in a literal press release on a rebrand because I object against that usually. But yeah,
tell
no,
me,
no.
tell me, tell me. What are your objections to press releases?
I'm not I'm for press releases, but it has to be something substantial, and saying we changed the logo is very often not, and putting a sauce on it, we changed the logo because we're now more purposeful is still not good. I
Uh huh.
think if you said we merged companies and we have a big reason why we're doing this, and
Right.
by the way, we also changed our identity to reflect that, that's fine,
Yep.
but it should never be the headline.
Yep. Well, as you know, many agencies, especially creative agencies, love to get their little press releases out on the
Oh
work that
yeah.
they've done. And so we're gonna dive into some press releases. And if you're following along, you can check out this slide presentation that we're gonna run, and you would be able to see my little translations in the corner of what they're actually saying. But we're gonna actually let's see, we're gonna go way back
I'll,
to the
I'll
beginning
I'll
of
put
this
to the
guy.
main screen so people don't see all the slides.
No, yeah, don't see the slides, people. You can't.
Give me a heads up when
Okay,
you're
all right.
ready. Okay, you're ready.
I'm ready. I'm ready.
All right,
Okay,
let's go
all
back.
right. First up here, we have a Toys R Us rebrand, and we spoke
Lovely.
about this a little bit um, on our last show, but we're gonna do a deeper dive into it. So let's first, check out the. Let me see. Let's share that particular tab here. We got a new tab. What's happening? I'm gonna stop, and
Okay.
then I'm gonna share again, and this time we're gonna change tabs here. All right, boom. Okay, so this. Can you see this?
Hang on a sec. I just need to put it back into the screen. Yeah, I think we're good. We're
Okay,
good. Keep going.
beautiful. Okay, so here's the Toys R Us rebrand, which we talked about this last week. It was never
Yeah.
used, but the agency Lippincott behind this rebrand did have this little explanation of the rebrand. If you go in there and you type and you click on the about this project, you can see their explanation. We're going to take some lines out of that and we're going to just break it apart. But first off, we don't need to get your take on it now, Steph, because we talked a little bit about it
Yeah.
last episode. But in a nutshell, it's a good rebrand. They take the distinctive backwards R and they run with it.
Yeah.
They have a distinctive asset, and yeah, it looks good. It looks clean. It looks modern, but also in some ways timeless. At least it can be adapted to be timeless in the future. And yeah, looks good.
And
Looks
there's
clean.
cool
Looks
3D
distinct.
thingies in there. I mean, what's not to love?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Which those will age. Those 3D things will age. I guarantee you. But you know what? They're not core to the brand. Really, the idea is just to take this backwards R and kind of
Yeah.
make it a little bit more adaptable. So there's a lot of potential here with this rebrand. But let's dive into their reasoning for this. Okay,
The
so
juicy stuff.
uh, the juicy stuff. Okay. So here we go. According to Pew Research, more than 1 million millennials are becoming parents each year. While they grew up with Toys R Us as kids, the world is a different place for these new parents. So everything has changed. Human nature has changed. Every single thing has changed. Perennials. Love that. You like that word, Steph?
That's just that's I applaud the strategist for finding that for sure.
Yes, yes.
Hey,
Perennials. Yeah.
just a sec, Alston. You're not sharing the other tab, by the way.
Oh, you're
But
right.
yeah,
You're right. Yeah, yeah. Let me fix that here. All right. Good
because
call there.
you had the beautiful voiceover and everything. But no
Yeah,
worries, by the way.
you gotta see the slide because I got my little my pretty my pretty design here. It's really
Okay.
important. Can you see it now?
Just a sec. Hitting. Yeah, 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 yeah. It's there. It's there.
Beautiful. Okay. All right. So
Perennials.
perennials have access to vast information on child rearing, and in many ways, Google has become the new grandparent or neighbor in this
Wow.
overwhelming explosion of shopping options, recommendations, rankings, and reviews. Now, I actually agree with them here. It's really sad, but they're probably right in a lot of respects that Google has become essentially the wisdom for parents, which is really sad because there's a lot of terrible advice out there. I know from the fact as being a parent. Okay, so here we go. For Toys R Us with a purpose, you like that word, right? Around unleashing the power of play. My translation here, we charge extra for a purpose statement. The brand gave us the opportunity to develop a voice for the igniter in all of us and for a customer
Oh,
persona. So clearly they're doing the the cliche purpose and customer persona, which we know from a lot of research is not effective whatsoever. But
this
it
is
makes us feel
brand
good about
poetry,
ourselves.
yeah. It's brand poetry
Exactly,
basically. Yeah, it's like you
exactly.
hire artists to do this kind of stuff. It's beautiful.
Yes. I also love their purpose statement, unleashing the power of play. In other words, we make toys.
I think actually like I've seen that a million times.
Yeah.
Unleashing the power of X. It's like a great template. If you're ever in doubt about what your company is, just
Mm.
put unleashing the power of and then whatever word is relevant to your industry, and you'll be off to the races.
I wonder if there's like a Chris Doe behind that who's like an onlyness statement. Just fill in this thing, and you're the only whatever of whatever. Maybe there's a bunch of gurus doing unleash the power of whatever. Okay, so
It's
we then devised familial visual systems like fraternal twins.
okay.
So they're comparing their brand to people, which is really popular right now.
Yep.
Each brand system would stand out by virtue of its distinct brand voice and its own primary colors. Subtly, the familial unity is achieved by a secondary color. And by the way, when they're talking about fraternal twins here, they're talking about Toys R Us and Babies R Us. I don't know how familiar you are
Whoa.
with this
Yeah.
brand, but this is what they're speaking about. Um, so they're basically saying that we wanted them to look similar but not the same, so they could stand out from one another, which makes sense, right?
Hmm.
Subtly, the familial unity is achieved by a secondary color palette, which not only unifies the look and feel of both brands, but also helps the entire business to get back to the core of who they are, the Toyland for play. So we're going to start to see some bullshit color psychology here, okay?
Oh,
So
okay.
brace
Brace
yourself.
brace yourselves.
Brace yourself for the viewers and listeners here. There is no evidence to concretely support color psychology in designing brands. There is no universal meaning attached to colors. In fact, if you do try to go after some sort of universal meaning with your brand, chances are you're going to just copy your competitors in the category because they're all using the same colors too. Because likely whatever psychology the agencies are trying to tell you is important is just related to the category in general. So here we
hence
have Toys R
hence why
Us.
we picked yellow for our brand, because it's an
Exactly.
energizing color and it fits our
Yes.
our audience, and like,
Yes.
yeah, and
Yeah.
bananas, yeah, I
And
think, yeah.
bananas and the red really is just blood. We bleed every day when we do this show. We bleed our entire selves out while we create this, and so I think that's important too.
There you have
Okay,
it.
so here we go. Here's their colors here. All right, you got Babies R Us and Toys R Us here.
Hmm.
And yeah, nothing wrong with what they're doing here. That the green is consistent in their accents. The primary Toys R Us color is blue. The primary Babies R Us color is purple, and the rest are kind of accents in relation to how often they occur within the brand. Okay, all right. Lippincott Research, or Overpriced Common Sense, uncovered a nostalgic affinity among today's new parents for the iconic backwards R. For these perennials, the childlike R personified the whole
Wow.
idea of play. So basically, they charged Toys R Us a ton of money to do research that uncovers that people equate Toys R Us with toys. Okay. Way to go there,
I love
guys.
this.
Way to go.
That would be so funny if an agency actually came out with like dry statements like the ones you're putting
I
down.
know.
Like, yeah, we
I would
basically
love
just cool.
If I worked for the right brand, I would be all over that.
Maybe
All
just
right.
hire Austin, guys.
Yeah, exactly. Hire me. We can do this. Okay. Armed. What do you think about that word, Steph? You like that word, armed?
Yeah, I mean you cannot just have an insight or find. You need to be armed with it. It's
Exactly. I translated this to please take our research seriously. We used a power word.
yeah.
So armed with the insight, Lippincott designers reclaimed this key element of brand equity. In other words, the distinctive brand asset of the backwards R for the two visual systems, giving each brand's R a distinctive aesthetic treatment unique to its essence.
What?
Yes, yes. So basically, they took the R and they've adapted it to different toy styles, and
Oh my god.
probably, if they're smart, at least they could use this adaptation for category entry points and other things as well. So,
I'm
great.
drinking
Okay.
non-alcoholic beer, but now I realize I should have switched to real alcohol. This is so much BS, man. Wow. This is
It's
really
great, isn't
top
it?
top top of the line. Wow.
Yep, yep. Here's where the bullshit color psychology really comes in here. The Toys R Us bold color palette is a bright spot for customers. It uses a core blue as the lead color with a secondary palette inspired by the energy of play. So essentially, they use primary colors because we associate toys and kids with primary colors, which is a mistake, by the way. Okay, it's not in the sense that Toys R Us was already doing this with primary colors, and so to completely change the colors would be a little ridiculous. But if Toys R Us was starting from scratch, they would not want to use a bunch of colors that are associated with toys because every toy company would be doing the exact same thing. But it's too late now. Toys R Us, you can't change it. So yeah, okay. We further celebrated the backwards R by telling stories about all the ways the brand can unleash the power of play. So we visually adapted their distinctive asset into different types of toys they sell.
Yeah,
That's what this
exactly.
is translated to. Okay. Now this part we talked a little bit about this last show. As of July 2019, the new owner of the Toys R Us brand plans to open 2 U.S. stores following the former owner's liquidation of its U.S. business.
Hmm.
Armed, there's that word again,
Yeah.
with our new brand platforms, Toys R Us and Babies R Us have the toolkits they need. Those bastards didn't use our rebrand to revitalize their brands and become relevant for a new generation of parents. We made Toys R Us cool again because we don't hire old people at our agency.
Oh
There
wow.
we go. There we
Lippincot's
go.
gonna love this.
What are your thoughts, Steph? What do you like? What do you love?
I mean, the thing I'm always thinking when I see this is like whose fault is it that we allow for such like completely like I mean yeah BS? Is it because we so desperately needed to convince our client to do anything creative,
Mm-hmm.
or is it really because we actually believe this stuff like there's like
Yeah, yeah.
and I think it's somewhere in between. I think actually part of it is us believing this story and part of it is just knowing that otherwise it's gonna be very hard to convince a client. But it's I mean it's wow. I'm blown away by this.
You know,
If you
I think
zoom in on it and like make annotations like you did, it becomes a lot more apparent. Like because a lot of times when I see this, I mean I go to these cool websites where they have rebrands like brand new and like there's
right.
always like you basically scroll through very quickly through these types of explanations that you just want to look at the juicy stuff. But if you actually analyze it in depth, then it is like, oh my god, what is happening here? The cringe.
It's pretty rough. I think the other piece is, you touched on being able to essentially convince clients to use the rebrand, but also I would say it's used, I grew up, quote unquote, in the in the vein of Christo in the future, and started out as a designer, and then he told me, no, you can make a ton of money if you just attach a bunch of strategy to that design.
Yep.
But all of the strategy that he talks about in other brand design gurus isn't really strategy. It's a bunch of stuff that customers are not going to pick up on. It's a bunch of things that are just going to be a waste of time and money and resources. And he doesn't ever mention distinctive brand assets. He doesn't mention anything that we actually know is proven to help brands grow. It's just all a bunch of fluff. But if
In
you can
his
sucker
defense,
the
I
right.
really don't think he knows about them. That's
No,
just
he doesn't.
yeah,
He
yeah,
doesn't. Yeah, yeah, you're totally right. We talked about that on my podcast episode of your show. I don't think he's doing this on purpose as some sort
yeah.
of grand scheme to
Purpose.
whatever.
It's his
Yeah, there you go.
purpose.
There
Sorry,
you go.
but no,
But
there's yeah. Go ahead. No, you were saying something. Go ahead.
yeah, if you can sucker a client into falling for this stuff, you can charge a lot more money. So
I,
Lippincott can say, we do a bunch of research, we come up with a purpose because everyone needs a purpose these days. We can go deeper in the colors that we use, and there's a lot of research on color psychology that we can use. Of course, they don't tell them all of it's been debunked, or at least hasn't been really solidified. It's possible that it works, but again, with the brand, you want to be distinctive above all else. The
yeah.
color psychology might work, but it's a bad idea when creating a brand, because you're just going to end up looking like other businesses in your category.
Yeah, and I mean, there's two things I want to pick up on. First, I think it's as you mentioned. I mean, this is a press release, so obviously they
Yeah,
need to like thicken the plot and the plot, basically
yeah.
making it somehow press worthy. And I think that's why they try to attach more meaning. Just saying like we
Hmm.
did X and Y because we needed more
Yeah,
of a digital applicable logo or whatever kind of visual
yeah.
platform is not enough to do it. So I think it's partly that thickening of the plot, and then partly it is that's something I noticed. You do need to present a little bit of an internal narrative on like
Mm,
that's more meaningful than maybe on the outset why you're doing it, because sometimes
yeah.
internally it's important to have like a little bit of like excitement about it and making sure.
Right,
but
right.
but like one more thing I want to say, like you mentioned the colors. I think that's a typical example of where if once we start falling into these cliches of color psychology, we end up being very not distinctive. And it's the
Right.
same actually with meaningful differentiation, I've noticed. Because if you
Mm-hmm.
think
Yeah,
about it,
yeah.
for example, in a toys category, I mean, where will you end up? You will end up somewhere in the power of play, because that's the
Right,
higher level
right.
order for all category.
Yeah.
And that's really the problem. If you start leveling up or looking at meaningful thing, you always end up in the same place. And
Yep.
that's why it's so hard to not fall into that trap of being
Hmm.
too purposeful about it. And it's the same here. So yeah, interesting to
Yep.
see that.
Yeah. Yeah. Great. All right. Well, we got a couple more to look at here, so we'll try to run
Yeah.
through these a little quicker. But this is going to be great. You're going to like this. Okay, so let me ask you this: what do you know about Velveeta, Steph? I would assume this is not something in Belgium, but correct me if I'm wrong.
I don't know. I know Croft, the logo is on sitting on
Yeah.
top of it, but I don't know
Yeah.
Velveeta at all.
Okay. Okay. So Velveeta is fake cheese. It has a long history. In the United States, we had what's called the Great Depression, where essentially the stock market crashed and just everybody was poor, and nobody could afford cheese, or at least a lot of people couldn't. And so there are all kinds of different meals that we eat today as Americans that come from this era of the Great Depression, and macaroni and cheese is one of
Mm.
those like classic American meals. And a lot of people use Velveeta for macaroni and cheese. If you get a box of macaroni, I guess either way, it's like this kind of rubbery looking like block of cheese.
Mm.
It doesn't really look like the right color that cheese would look like. It's gross looking, but it tastes amazing, right? Because it's just got all kinds of MSG, and when it's melted, it's got great texture and all kinds of
Yeah.
stuff. So, but Velveeta is essentially like the poor man's, cheese, right? And a lot of Americans will eat Velveeta recipes because their grandmother or their great grandmother had Velveeta in their recipe, because again, it was like this kind of Great Depression era food. So that is Velveeta, and what we're about to see is the exact opposite of really who Velveeta is in an ad campaign released by Johannes Leonardo,
Aha.
where they try to completely change the and some of this might be tongue in cheek. It's actually really hard to know because there's
Yeah.
no when I look, I can't really tell, but I think some of it's also very serious. So here we go. Okay, Velveeta. All right, so here's the ad campaign.
Oh mio bambino caro, es la dolce vita, quando in porto rosa,
Mm.
mi strega mi tormento.
Wow.
Yeah, it's pretty
Whoa.
great, huh?
It's
So
cool.
as Americans, as American, I don't know if you guys in Belgium view Italians as a sophisticated and classy, but we as Americans do. So
Yeah.
clearly, that's what they're going for.
I,
Okay.
I, I must say I kind of like the ad. I don't have the
Yeah.
maybe the cultural reference, so it did feel like almost a bit ironic to me how you framed it, but yeah,
Yeah.
it's an interesting ad for sure. It got me hooked.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Also, it's important to note when this ad campaign was launched, it came off of the heels of COVID, where Velveeta sales skyrocketed,
Mm,
which to me just means people were looking for comfort, and so they were trying their grandma's,
yeah.
dish, or they were broke and they needed cheap cheese, right? So, so they thought, all right, let's do it. They actually even did a rebrand as well, which we won't really talk about. It's pretty good. It actually takes most of the distinctive appearance of Velveeta and just refreshes it, and doesn't do too anything too crazy. So it's actually a pretty good rebrand. But okay, so here's their press release from Johannes Leonardo. How do you hit reset on a 103-year-old product? You hone in on indisputable, decades-spanning truth. Velveeta lovers don't give a fork. I translate this as Velveeta buyers don't care about their health when they buy fake cheese. They don't think about they don't think about ways to earn pleasure. They know they deserve to bask in it each and every day. No rules, no judgment, just a good time all day, every day. They don't seek out a mild meal or a snack. In other words, MSG is flavorful and comfort foods are filling. They go all in. With that in mind, we didn't uncover an idea, but a very simple and big truth. Velveeta is so much more than just a food. It's an ethos. It's a flag that proudly emboldens people to live their way with one simple rule to guide them: follow your pleasure above everything else. So we made a campaign about pleasure opportunists. Again, people who don't give a shit about their health. The kinds of people who know there is no difference between a Monday morning and a Friday afternoon, because they're all just opportunists, or opportunities to enjoy the day. The result is a campaign that celebrates those who enjoy themselves exactly how they want. Rules be damned. It's a lifestyle that, like the product inspiring it, is outrageously decadent and oh so attainable. It's more than a food, it's a way of life. That's La Dolce Velveeta. In other words, our client wanted to become a lifestyle brand, and we didn't have the heart to tell them that's not going to
Wow.
happen. So, judging from this commercial, here is Velveeta's ideal customer. So
Yeah.
it's a it's diverse, it's trendy, it's modern, it's fashionable, it's young. They're all
It's
young.
hipster Velveeta.
It's hipster Velveeta. Velveeta's actual customer, your mom, this guy at Walmart, your grandma. Though anybody who thinks that this shirt is funny and would wear it publicly, uh, and this guy who's literally only eaten mac and cheese for the last 17 years, has the whole Vice news special about him. Um,
What?
Honey Boo Boo, if you know this reference, she was a beauty queen and had her own reality TV show. That was my first and last salad. And me. I love this stuff. It's so good. All right. What are your thoughts, Steph?
I mean, I'm conflicted because on the one hand, I kind of like I like the ad in its pure like in how it was made. There was
Yeah.
something very like attention grabbing about the music, and I kind of like the juxtaposition of a very like what you say, like it's a very like it's a almost like a dirty cheap ass product, and they kind of like try to elevate it in a funny way. But
Right.
then like the explanation, I mean, parts of it were kind of like I think work well in the sense of again like creating this super like this manifesto almost, where I can imagine people in the company feel like, yeah, Velveeta, Velveeta. But again, like parts of it is like, okay, let's take why like it could also be fun to take a more humble approach on this. Why
Right.
not try it? But yeah, it's yeah, it's such a symptom, I think, of like where and this is true for branding but also for advertising, where the pitch becomes almost like this thing of its own, where
Yeah.
like the story that is the pitch needs to be so well crafted that it becomes an art on its
Yeah.
own.
They're clearly going for like a PR strategy here, right? So they
Yeah.
not only have they done this kind of advertising, this ad campaign, but they've actually they were planning to. I don't know if they actually did, but they bought ads out of fashion magazines and positioned Velveeta as like this. It would be like maybe like a champagne bottle, but Velveeta would be inside of it.
Yeah.
And so they're like trying to essentially, to me, it seems like they're obviously just trying to get a bunch of PR around
Voila.
Velveeta, really.
I
Yeah.
I
Which,
think
from that
it's
perspective, it probably
yeah.
works.
Yeah, it's definitely like if you compare it to, well, I mean, we can't. It's hard to compare to the Lipicon story, as that was a rebrand and probably not their
Mhm.
fault that it went bust the whole company,
Yeah.
but it is definitely something where I think they're more aware of their actual reputation, and they try to like do a play on it and make it like consciously a little bit over. So I think there's
Yeah.
something
Totally.
to be said about it, especially if you want to get some more PR around it. But I mean, long term, it's definitely, as you said, like it's it's not very representative of what their brand actually is.
Yeah. Yeah. If they were actually trying to appeal to a new demographic of customers, in the youths, I guess, of our day, I don't think it's really that effective. I don't think anyone's gonna like be like, oh, I'm gonna have Velveeta today because I saw myself in their ad for the first time, and I always equated it with my grandma, and now I'm gonna equate it, all right, whatever. Because no customer would ever even think that consciously, but even subconsciously, I don't think that's gonna really be a great technique. Essentially, it just seems like a PR campaign to get the Velveeta name out there, and from that perspective, it probably did work or will work. But from an actual brand perspective, I don't think it's going to have much fruit. Yeah. At the same time,
Interesting.
they're going to come out with a. Here's the thing: they're going to come out with a case study talking about how sales lifted and everything changed for the brand. But in reality, they haven't advertised like ever in the United States on TV, and now they're going to start advertising,
Hmm.
and so they're going to just use going from nothing to
Yeah,
probably a
exactly.
full-fledged ad campaign, and they're going to say, look, it's because we did it this way. In reality, it's because you did it at all.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
find that happening a lot, where a lot of companies are like, when we differentiated the brand, sales uplifted by this much or whatever, when in reality you just weren't advertising before, and then you started advertising. You're always going to have some sort of an impact from that. Okay,
Voila.
all right, let's move on. So KFC has done a couple of things recently. One, they hired a new chief marketing officer, Nick Chavez, and Nick Chavez came in and at least on the surface appears to blow up everything at KFC. He's doing something new and different and exciting and innovative,
As a new
and
CMO should do, right? I mean,
exactly, yeah. You can't just come into a company as a new CMO and do things that have been working in the past. You have to do something to mix it up, of course. So they did two things, right? So this is Nick Chavez. He was hired in 2021. Okay, so the first thing that they did was they changed their tagline. Steph, do you know this tagline in Belgium? Is
yes.
this familiar to you? Okay, so this
Yes.
tagline is familiar to you as well. That's interesting. Okay, all right. So it is one of probably the most recognizable taglines that I can think of right now. Okay,
Yeah.
they came in and they changed everything, Steph. They blew up this
No.
tagline, and now,
I can't
drum
look.
roll, please. Drum roll, please, Steph.
Drum roll. Oh wait, maybe I have some.
Come on, man. Let's do a drum. There you go. That's finger licking good is their new tagline. That was
Wow.
nice. I like that.
I'm I'm
Did you like our little duck here? Did you like what I did there?
it's becoming a real distinctive asset. So
It
I
really
applaud
is.
you
It's
for
becoming
it.
adaptable. Yes. Okay, so this is their epic tagline, their new tagline, and this is the chief marketing officer, Nick Chavez, talking about this new tagline. It's finger licking good is us describing ourselves. That's finger licking good is the customer describing the
Oh,
brand.
I see what he
You
did
see
there.
what they did
Oh,
there? It's
oh my
genius,
God.
isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. That pivot of being, of course, they pivoted, obviously.
Yeah.
That pivot of being a brand that serves them and not the other way around is a key in brand marketing and the key to this campaign. Translation, I promise I'm doing something different as CMO. This is how I'm reading
Wow,
this.
but this is like some real meta shit. I mean, come on.
Oh yeah.
It's
Oh
it's
yeah.
you. It's you who's saying it. It's not the customer. It's not the customer that says that's fake. It's you. It's coming from you.
Exactly.
What the
Exactly.
That's crazy. That's mind-boggling.
It's pretty epic. Okay, so the other big change that they made. So, are you familiar with the ad campaign where a different actor played Colonel Sanders, their distinctive brand asset, in like almost every ad? Are you familiar with
N-
this?
I don't think so. No.
Okay, I don't know if I included it here or not. I don't think. Maybe I did. Yeah, I think I do later. Anyway, so the whoever was in charge of KFC and their marketing campaign before was actually a really intelligent person, at least from a distinctive brand asset standpoint, because he used the iconic Colonel Sanders distinctive brand asset, but by replacing different actors playing him, but still maintaining the general look
Yeah.
of Colonel Sanders, they were able to do something really creative while also being really consistent with their distinctive brand asset, which I think is just incredible. I'm a big fan of when you can take a distinctive brand asset that's iconic, that's recognizable, and then you can do something really new and different while keeping it the same,
Yeah.
essentially. I thought it was genius. I thought it was
I
great.
just wanted to
We'll look
show
into that video later.
I just wanted to show. I don't know if you see the screen, by the way, Austin, but this one was also something they did, which was actually really interesting. They did like a 3D version of a
Oh,
sexy-looking
interesting.
younger Colonel Sanders, and he had like an Instagram profile and stuff, and he did like posing. I thought it was such a great way to innovate I mean a very old.
That's awesome.
So yeah, no, just wanted to share
Yeah.
that. Go
No,
ahead, go
I
ahead.
love I love what they've been doing with Colonel Sanders. And this new CMO has come in and he's decided we gotta hide him. He
No
can't be
way.
as present anymore. And in the kind of underlying text in what the CMO is saying in this interview he did with Ad Age, which is where this text comes from, essentially he seems to be saying a white Southerner could appear racist in today's culture, and so we can't just show him everywhere anymore.
And instead of like leveraging him and making him say like,
Yep.
"Hey guys, this is what we stand
Yeah.
for," which would be a lot more
Yeah.
powerful actually. But yeah.
Yeah. Yep. So they've decided to well, let's just let him talk about it. Okay. All right. So I'm not showing their duck, so their distinctive brand asset, just like our little duck here, Colonel Sanders. We wanted to make the food the star. So in this case, the Colonel is back in the kitchen and is more associated with the finger licking good food. Translation: we could be canceled for showing a white Southerner. We kept the voice because there's so much brand attribution. In other words, Colonel Sanders is a very strong distinctive brand
Yep.
asset in there. But it's really about the people we serve and the food we serve now. So essentially, my translation is, we don't understand that distinctive brand assets don't distract us from products. They are merely mental shortcuts for the brand. I think
Wow.
that's a really interesting point here. They seem to be thinking that Colonel Sanders is somehow distracting from the chicken that KFC serves, instead of just literally acting as a mental shortcut, and a great one, by the way. We have a great opportunity to create more modern relevance and more modern engagement with modern families and young modern singles. This is the next opportunity for growth. Translation: we can't isolate woke moralists who might interpret our innocent asset as racist.
Ouch.
Yes.
Wow.
We don't need to watch this. We're running out of time. But if you want, you can look up this video here. Actually, you can find our slide. We'll put it in the show notes. But yeah, this is the different actors, including Ray Liotta, which is hilarious, playing Colonel Sanders. And then
dinner's ready when you are.
And then we have this is the new campaign, which Nick Chavez was behind, that now has changed the tagline and has put Colonel Sanders back in the kitchen while still using it.
My goodness, look at you. Do a little turn for me. Let's just trim a bit here and... Oh, you saucy little minx.
KFC's chicken sandwich, always served hot and crispy. That's finger licking good.
Oh my god.
There it is.
Why?
All right.
I mean, it on its own, it doesn't look like the worst ad in the world. It's just realizing that they have all that potential laying around.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, if this was a brand new campaign for using a brand new distinctive brand asset, then this would actually be pretty good. It's a great distinctive voice as a spokesperson. It's got it does have a memorable tagline.
Yep.
But then knowing that they have abandoned a lot of what they already had that was really great in favor of this, just really takes a lot of the power out of it.
Wow. If we would ever organize like the bullshit awards or the BS show awards, this is like the adding the dads to the tagline is, I mean, it's right up there. I hadn't seen that. That's blew me away. Wow.
Yeah. In a nutshell, Nick Chavez doesn't seem to be nearly as good of a chief marketing officer as whoever was there before. So that's what I've taken away from this.
I think we should get him on the show, Nick.
We should totally
share the vision. Wow,
that's all I got for you, Steph.
I mean, as always, I'm impressed by your thoroughness and the stories you shared. So I'm now stressed for the next episode because now I have to come out again. But it was super fun. Thanks again.
I think I just had more time than you, Steph. So.
and to end up,
there it is.
Show the duck, people. Bye-bye. We should have a voice in there saying "show the duck" in a very like southern USA
show
way.
And listen to the duck.
Listen to the duck.
Or however you play the duck. I don't know.
Talk soon, mate. Bye-bye.
All right, see ya.
Finishing.